Does your child have reading homework sent from school? That's what we're going to talk about today, so I'm going to need plenty of involvement in the comment section below. Hi, I'm Rebecca with Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. Today I'm going to talk about reading homework. I see a lot of things sent home with students of mine. I tutor part-time since I homeschool my children full-time. You'll see a few of them in the background here while they're taking a break. So I want to talk about reading homework. If you don't mind commenting below what grade your child is in and what sort of reading homework is sent home, especially if your child is struggling in the area of reading. Maybe you see it on a report card. Maybe you just feel like something's off and they're struggling and you don't have homework sent home. I really want to hear from you because I want to know, would you like the teacher to let you know what you can be doing in the time that you're with your child to help them grow in their reading better? Let's go over a few things that I see teachers sending home as reading homework when they do send it home. Okay, so sometimes in the younger grades, I see memorization of words such as sight words. Now, I've made a few videos about sight words. I'm going to link them down below that you can watch them. But my general take on sight words is that a child should first learn how to read simple 3-letter short vowel words before they learn sight words, because a lot of the sight words can be sounded out anyway, and phonics trumps the memorization of words. That's kind of like give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So if a child really understands how to sound out words and some of the reading rules, they can read so many more words that come their way rather than memorizing them. I'm not against memorizing some of the sight words, especially the ones that are difficult or seem to not really follow any sort of words. So I see younger children getting memorization of words. The other thing that I see children being sent home as reading homework are fluency passages. Let's see, I may have one here from my video. Okay, so here's an example of one that's a 3rd grade level fluency passage. And as you can see, it has numbers along the side, and it has a short passage your child will read. A lot of times they ask you to time your child for the first minute and just to see how many words they can get correct within a minute. So if your child's teacher sends a fluency passage home every week, leave a comment below if they do and how it's working for you. Some of my tutoring students in the past have definitely benefited from that, but also some of them have experienced some anxiety around the area of having a timer on them. Now, as a homeschool mom, I don't do fluency passages with my children. I did a few today on video to show you how to do them or how teachers expect you to do them as an example, but I don't really do that with my children. We just read lots and lots of books. So we go to the library and change out books, and I just make sure the book isn't too hard and not really too easy. So with a fluency passage, the whole goal is to get a child to read with feeling, to read at a smoother speed or rate, and to be sure that they are reading it accurately. So that's why you're looking for mistakes like adding a word in, skipping a word, just guessing a word. Those are some mistakes that you might look for with fluency passages. But they can be beneficial in some ways because it's just a thing that says, here, Mom, take this fluency passage and have your child read it to you. Have your child read it to you several days in a row, because rereading is beneficial, particularly with new readers. But just think about hard things that you have to read. If you don't fully understand it, or if it's written at a very high level, you might have to go back and reread. So rereading is not bad. So we've talked about memorizing words like sight words, reading passages, and another type of reading homework that I see sent home is when children actually have to read a book. Okay, so this is probably going to be for older elementary or middle school kids. Comment below if your child had to read a book for summer reading. Leave their age, the book they had to read. I want to know how it went for you. And when they started school back this year, did they have any sort of test? Did they have a project to do, or was it completely ignored? Because one of the things that I think might happen with some of the teacher shortages that seem to be everywhere, but they're definitely here where I live, is if they were told to read a certain book over the summer, and then the parent works really hard to convince their kid to read over the summer, and they get that done, and then they come back to school, and that next grade level, the teacher position hasn't been filled, and then a new teacher comes in that knows nothing about the required reading for the summer, it might just get glossed over and no one do anything about it. And then what is that taught the child? Well, the child is probably thinking, oh, I read that book for nothing, especially if it's a reluctant reader. Of course, they didn't read it for nothing, but that's how a child is going to feel. Back in the old days, and there are still some schools that do this, you would have a traditional reading book about that thick, and it was called a basal reader. And inside of it, you had like a story for each week. The stories for each week weren't all bad, at least in the basal readers that I had. But they were actually books of their own that you could get them at the library. It was just that the basal reader was compiled of a bunch of those stories in one book, and they did one story a week, and the child had to read and reread that. If your child's school uses that, leave a comment below. But what I'm also curious about, one type of reading practice that I haven't seen as much sent home in some of my students that are in kindergarten or first grade, and that is some phonics homework. Is your child's school sending home phonics practice? What I mean by that, it could be a worksheet where they have to fill out, is this the short vowel sound that you hear in this word or the long vowel sound? Or it could be something like a word ladder or a word chain where you have something like bat and then cat and then hat, or maybe, so that would be switching out the first letter. Or you may have bat, bit, bot, is changing out the middle sound. Or you may even have something where it's changing out the ending sound, like bus, bug, bun. I want to know if your child has any phonics homework sent home with them for reading, because that's the key. If they have some phonics sent home with them, they're going to learn how to sound out a word, or as a lot of teaching materials will say, decode. They're going to learn to decode a word and sound out a word. I just put out a course called A Busy Mom's Guide for Teaching Your Child to Read. And in that course, I go through everything I did with my own children, teaching them how to read, how to sound out words. We used ABC magnets primarily on the side of our refrigerator because, well, I was a busy mom. My oldest child learned to read while I was still teaching full time, so I didn't have as much time with him. With each child, it can get easier and easier as they see older siblings reading, but primarily that's how we did it. You're going to want to check out that course, so I will leave a link in the description below where you check that out. But I will say, if you get on my email list, you can get a discount for the course, so it's completely worth it. You get on my email list by filling out the form down below to get your 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. And these are real tips that I've used with my own children, with countless tutoring students that I've had. I tutored before I even left teaching, but I left teaching full-time in early 2014. So since then, I've been tutoring part-time, and I've known many, many children that have come my way, and they have reached their goals, and they've gone on, and they've been successful readers. And I'm just thinking, man, your kid goes to school for 12 or 13 years, and they still can't read well. That's a problem. So I commend those parents out there who have taken matters into their own hands. Maybe they've purchased a reading program, okay? It could be workbook oriented. It could be something online they found. Maybe they've gotten a tutor for help. Maybe they've even changed their child's school, or they've taken their child out to homeschool and they've used some reading curriculum for homeschoolers. That actually can be helpful sometimes because the reading curriculum is written for people who weren't trained to be teachers, and it just can be easily scripted and very well explained. I didn't know about those curricula when I was teaching, but now, wow, I look back and I think this could have really helped me when I was first teaching students how to read. But I primarily learned how to teach others how to read, not only from my experience of my mom teaching me how to read, and by the way, she did not have a college degree, but she taught me how to read. And then also, I worked as a tutor for someone who tutored dyslexic students. And so I learned those methods with the Orton Gillingham way of doing things. If you're curious what Orton Gillingham is, I have made a video about that. I'll leave that in the description below as well. So I think this video has gone on long enough. I hope that you commented below because I really want your feedback. What kind of reading homework is your child getting? And if your child is struggling and you never listen to them read aloud, you really need to change that because you should be listening to them read aloud. You find out so much because whatever words they're messing up on, I promise you, there is a trend. If you will write those down, you will notice what they're needing help with. Okay? So don't forget to subscribe, click that like button, leave a comment for me below, share with a friend who needs it, and remember, you are your child's most influential teacher.